Next on Currents News, heroes on the front lines of the coronavirus crisis are getting help from other New Yorkers.
Good Samaritans and local businesses are going above and beyond to make sure these heroes are fed. I'm Emily Druby. That's coming up.
And nowhere is safe for the city's homeless population. Still, in the face of the outbreak, Catholics haven't abandoned them.
A Manhattan church is determined to help the homeless despite the coronavirus crisis. I'm Tim Harfman. That story's coming up.
Pope Francis is set to take to the airwaves with an extraordinary blessing. He's calling for the world to join in prayer. Plus, an exclusive interview with an American journalist living in China. His advice for the rest of the world now feeling the full effects of COVID-19. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. The coronavirus crisis is hitting New York City very hard. The number of cases is soaring as the city and state scramble to beef up hospital capacity and secure key medical equipment. Mayor Bill DiMarzio is sounding the alarm tonight that the outbreak is getting worse.
This is just a beginning. I don't mean that, to be anything but blunt and honest with New Yorkers and all Americans. It's the beginning of something that will get worse throughout April and into May.
The mayor is very worried. New York's 11 public hospitals are running out of medical supplies. He says there's only enough equipment, especially ventilators, to get through this week. The Brooklyn Diocese is confirming 2 new coronavirus cases at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish in Astoria, Queens. One patient attended Bible study on March 10th, and the other was at a religious education class the next day. The church and parish center are undergoing deep cleanings. Doctors and nurses are on the front lines in the battle against the pandemic. Now, other New Yorkers are coming to their aid, giving them the food they need to fight off the pandemic. Currents News' Emily Druby has the story from the Upper East Side.
The pizza has been cooked, cut, and loaded into the car. But this isn't any old delivery. It's a delivery of goodwill.
Thank you so much. All right.
Free food for healthcare workers, those fighting hard against COVID-19. The idea came from this group of friends. A relative works at a Manhattan hospital.
She was talking to him about sending some food, and he said, we're lucky if we even get a chance to run down to the vending machine and grab a protein bar.
It started as a call to action to their friends on social media, but in less than a week, the fundraiser called Feed Our Frontline has blown up, bringing in over $19,000 on GoFundMe.
We never, ever expected this, but it just goes to show you how much everyone in a trying time like this really wants to lend a hand. Sometimes they don't know where to start, but they're willing to do it.
The money is providing free lunches for healthcare workers all across New York City, Westchester, and Long Island. They've even partnered with local businesses who are offering discounted prices, meaning the money goes even further. Radio City Pizza in Midtown Manhattan is one of them.
And it's all about those people that are in the hospitals, that are working overtime, the doctors, the nurses, the staff, everyone. So if I can just do a little part to help out, I'm happy.
It's a win-win. The fundraiser is helping those on the front lines, but it's also helping small businesses during a difficult time.
We're still open, and if you look on my block here, everything is shut down.
Tony says they already have 17 orders booked for this week. She's also urging anyone that can to go donate. They're trying to keep this going for as long as possible. On the Upper East Side, Emily Druby, Currents News.
You can help get food to our medical heroes by donating to the drive. Head over to gofundme.com/feedourfrontline and sign up to help out. The city is rapidly becoming an epicenter of the pandemic. There are more cases here on a per capita basis than in Italy. There are over 12,000 confirmed infections in the 5 boroughs and 99 deaths. The outbreak is worst in Queens with more than 3,600 confirmed patients. Brooklyn, Manhattan, and the Bronx are next. On Staten Island, more than 800 people have the disease. Some of the people most at risk from the surging pandemic are the homeless in the city. There's no safe harbor for them. Still, they and others facing troubles are not being forgotten by Catholics. Currents News' Tim Harfman has the story from St. Francis of Assisi Church in Midtown Manhattan.
The bread line here at St. Francis of Assisi has been open every day for the past 90 years. Volunteers tell me they're used to giving out 250 meals a day, but because of the coronavirus and other places shutting down, the meal count is up to 300.
The line has changed. It's usually the same people every day. You know, you get to know these people. It's changed, and people I've never seen before. People that look like they're from different situations.
Some may have just lost their jobs. Others are homeless. Regardless, volunteers were hard at work, helping those in need.
I'd rather not see them suffer.
Pre-packaged to-go meals were distributed first thing this morning as a way to keep the line moving and avoid a large crowd from gathering outside the Manhattan church. Richard Holland says he's grateful for the food.
It makes me feel that these people are using more faith than fear.
The 58-year-old is homeless and received juice, oatmeal, 2 sandwiches, and a piece of cake. He says what's not a piece of cake, finding other resources for the homeless. Places are forced to close as a precaution.
It's not as if they're turning them away. In their eyes, they're protecting the parish or the organization.
Coordinator Adam Cross says they're open because the bread line is a lifeline.
They're like our brothers and sisters. They really are. The way we treat them, the way we care for them.
And volunteers say though there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, they're determined to stay open as long as possible to help those in need. In Midtown Manhattan, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Throughout this crisis, Catholic Charities of Brooklyn, Queens is on alert. They're ready to help anyone in need. Catholic Charities is offering food assistance, help with housing, and other emergencies. You can contact them at ccbq.org. The first person to die of the virus in Washington, D.C. is a Franciscan friar. Brother John Sebastian Laird Hammond died on Friday. The 59-year-old had been battling leukemia for years. He had been living at the Franciscan Monastery of the Holy Land in America until last September, but we're told since then he was living alone to concentrate on his cancer treatments. On Capitol Hill, the coronavirus crisis is producing high tensions tonight. A sharp clash between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate is derailing a massive package of relief for millions of Americans suffering through the pandemic. Camila Bernal has the latest on the logjam from Washington.
The war against coronavirus is intensifying across the country.
I want America to understand this week it's going to get bad.
As the coronavirus cases climb, more workers laid off. Medical supplies dwindle and doctors plead for people to isolate.
Stay at home.
The federal government activating the U.S. National Guard in 3 of the hardest hit states: California, Washington, and New York, the new center for the coronavirus crisis.
New York has by far the greatest need in the nation.
To save the economy from a depression, the Federal Reserve announcing an unprecedented rescue plan, including unlimited bond buying, 3 new credit facilities, and an upcoming Main Street lending program. The Fed says the programs will provide up to $300 billion in new financing. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, senators scramble to negotiate the largest federal spending package in modern American history. With the nearly $2 trillion package, most adults would get $1,200 and most children would receive $500.
We were this close. This close.
But Democrats blocking the measure, demanding stronger protections for workers and limitations on bailed-out businesses.
And our goal is to reach a deal today.
Yet coronavirus is complicating matters. Several senators are in quarantine after one of their own tested positive for the virus, proving this pandemic is touching all corners of American life. In Washington, I'm Camila Bernal reporting.
We want to keep you up to date on some other headlines happening today. The Federal Reserve is predicting the U.S. jobless rate could soar to 30% because of the virus pandemic. A New York Catholic hospital upstate will be the first entirely dedicated to treating COVID-19 patients. American seminarians are being ordered back home from their studies in hard-hit Rome, and Chicago church bells will ring every 3 hours as a call to prayer during the crisis. There's a lot more news headed your way on tonight's Currents News. Virtual masses, priests going high-tech to keep their parishioners involved. We'll catch up with one priest in Queens to see how it's been going. Plus, the bishop's reflection. Bishop DiMarzio also reaching out to his flock with the help of technology. We'll have his latest message to you. And Pope's prayers, a special invitation from Pope Francis to join him in prayer. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Even though churches are closed in the Brooklyn Diocese, masses are still going on. Our Tim Harfman spoke with a priest in Queens about what it's like to celebrate Mass by himself while hundreds watch online. He files this report from Flushing.
Father Joseph Fonti won't let the virus crisis get in the way of serving the Lord and his people. On the first Sunday the Brooklyn Diocese put public masses on hold, Father Fonti was one of many priests celebrating at their parishes behind closed doors. He live-streamed the liturgy on the parish's website so parishioners could participate. He compared the experience to attending a prayerful retreat in solitude.
I would say that's probably something that has helped give me a little preparation for this and has kept me somewhat sane and stable in the midst of it.
Even though parish life is being disrupted by the outbreak, Father Fonti is still hard at work as pastor of St. Mel's Church in Flushing.
I keep my routine. I get up at the same hour I would if the church was packed, and I still get dressed as a priest and do my priestly duties.
Which includes celebrating Sunday Mass, with only the church organist present.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Lift up your hearts.
Lift them up to the Lord.
Let us give thanks to the Lord our God.
It is right and just.
Father Fonti has live-streamed Masses more since the outbreak began. He says the number of St. Mel's parishioners now watching is up 1,000% since he started the online service in September.
I actually do feel the love of my people. I get some emails, I get some phone calls after the broadcast. Many people have called just to check on us.
A connection growing stronger during this time apart.
They love us and we love them, and that brings a lot of comfort to the day.
In Flushing, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Catholics across the diocese are being urged to watch Mass right here on Net TV. The schedule of live services Monday through Friday is at 8 a.m. the English Mass, at 8:30 the Creole Mass, at 9 the Mass in Spanish, at 9:30 the Polish liturgy, at 10 the Italian Mass, at 10:30 is the Chinese Mass, at 11 the Korean Mass. On Sunday at 8 a.m. is the Korean Mass, at 9 the Creole Mass, at 10 the Italian liturgy, at 11 a.m. Mass in English, at noon the Polish Mass, at 1:30 the Spanish Mass, and at 3 p.m. the Chinese liturgy. Net TV is New York's Catholic station. You can find it on Verizon's Fios Channel 48, on Optimum's Channel 30, and on Spectrum's Channel 97. The Mass schedule is online at netny.tv. Bishop DiMarzio has dispensed with the Sunday Mass obligation during the crisis. At the same time, the bishop is using social media to get his message out. Yesterday, he posted a video talking about how you can receive communion and go to confession when you can't go to church.
And spiritual communion has been a long-standing practice in the church. Yes, the great saints practiced it when they could not receive communion and when frequent communion was not as available as it is today. They had recourse to spiritual communion. Make a good act of contrition, because that will allow you to prepare for confession. Actually, when we go to confession, we must do that first. We must have contrition. We must have sorrow for our sins. The Lord is always available to us with His grace, even when we cannot sacramentally receive Him nor have sacramental absolution. Keep these things in mind as these days go on. Ask the Lord to come to you, come to your heart.
Bishop DiMarzio has been posting video reflections online as a way to connect with parishioners in Brooklyn and Queens. The Pope is inviting Christians around the world to join him for special events this week. Francis wants us to pray together for an end to the pandemic. Melissa Butts has the details from outside St. Peter's Square.
Despite the coronavirus lockdown and the virtual connection, Pope Francis is uniting Christians in a very special way this week to pray for an end of the coronavirus pandemic. Pope Francis announces two important events for Christians of every denomination. The first one will take place this Wednesday, the Feast of the Annunciation. It will be offered for an end to the coronavirus.
Invito dunque tutti a farlo parecchie volte al giorno, ma tutti insieme recitare il Padre Nostro mercoledì prossimo 25 marzo a mezzogiorno, tutti insieme.
The Holy Father is also planning an extraordinary moment of prayer this coming Friday. He will finish with an Urbi et Orbi blessing for the city and the world. It's given only on special occasions, since it offers a plenary indulgence, which removes all temporal punishment for sin. It will take place on Friday, March 27th at 6 p.m. Rome time to an empty St. Peter's Square.
Ascolteremo la parola di Dio, eleveremo la nostra supplica, adoreremo il Santissimo Sacramento, con il quale al termine darò la benedizione, Urbi et Orbi, a cui sarà annessa la possibilità di ricevere l'indulgenza plenaria.
Pope Francis said in order to confront the virus and remain united, Christians must respond with prayer, compassion, and mercy. He once again affirmed his closeness to doctors, nurses, and police who are risking their lives for the good of everyone during the coronavirus. Pope Francis's desire for unity will be continuing into Holy Week and Easter Sunday, when Christians still won't be able to gather together for these events. Yet all these events will be live streamed from the Vatican, so everyone can participate from home. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Because of the spreading virus, the Pope's planned trip to Malta at the end of May has been postponed. Pope Francis was expected to speak there about migrants' rights. No word yet on a new date for the trip. Still to come on Currents News, an exclusive interview with an American journalist reporting from China, what we can learn from there to better prepare for our future. And in Italy, prayers are sent toward heaven, the rosary heading up to new heights. The Vatican is getting a boost of aid from China. The Diocese of Xi'an is donating 24,000 face masks to the Holy See, as well as other religious communities and dioceses in Italy. A Chinese priest explained the gift, saying that the Vatican helped China by sending thousands of masks to them when the outbreak was at its worst. Now, as life in China begins to return to normal, it's their turn to pay back the generosity.
All right, this is reality now.
On the front lines of the coronavirus crisis, Jonathan Betts is an American journalist working and living in Beijing, dealing with the new reality. COVID-19 has changed the lives of millions everywhere. Jonathan, like many journalists, is trying to tell people the information they need to know while working under quarantine. He joins us now from Beijing to tell us more about this new reality. Thanks for joining us, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
All right, people have been following the situation in China very closely. We're hearing reports that the number of cases there are trending downward. What are you hearing, and how are things in Beijing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. The number of cases is trending downward big time. Really encouraging news here in China. It does seem like the country has turned a corner in fighting this infection, but a lot of the restrictions, the lockdowns, the disruptions do very much remain. I think China is now focused on trying to make sure cases from abroad, from other countries, don't come into China, now that it seems like they are getting control over the number of locally transmitted cases.
Yeah, as we saw from your video, China has gone to great lengths to stop the spread of the quarantine, checking people's temperatures before entering public areas. You showed video of workers fumigating streets, even a taxi you took where the driver sealed the front seat to better block himself from you. Now, as journalists, we're often on the front lines of breaking news. Describe for us what working through this crisis is like, especially under quarantine.
Yeah, it's been tough. I was under quarantine for 2 weeks, and it's been very, very difficult for sure, because it's a new reality here. It's a new normal in China. I think a lot of people all over the world are beginning to see what we've been seeing for a couple of months now. Our entire lives have been disrupted. Our normal routines are gone. And so working under that has been very challenging, because, there's not a lot of places open. Even now, very few restaurant shops, malls, stores, you name it, are open here. And so it's been very, very challenging trying to lead a normal life and trying to work normally when everything is far from normal right now.
Wow. What measures are you and your colleagues taking to make sure you're safe?
Yeah, a lot of temperature checks. So wherever you go in China, whether it's my office or a mall or even walking in and out of my apartment building complex, you get temperature checks. It's the law in Beijing that everyone needs to wear a mask, no matter where you are. So everyone is wearing masks at the office. Constant cleaning, constant scrub downs. Of course, the social distancing we're talking about, and our office definitely encourage a lot of people to work and stay home, those that could. But in a lot of industries, not everyone can work remotely, and that includes mine and me. And so the people that do have to be there, we're taking a lot of extra precautions for sure.
How have you personally been dealing with the quarantine and the isolation it brings?
It's been tough. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's been very tough. I felt pretty prepared for the virus, but I was completely unprepared for all the disruptions that come with it. I did not expect the disruptions to be so severe and also to last so long, because this has been going on for months now. And, being in quarantine, the boredom, the isolation, you think it's going to be fun when you first start. Oh, I get a chance to binge television and catch up on movies and things like that. But it's not. It really begins to get frustrating because, the walls quickly close in on you when this is your entire world.
Right. Since the outbreak started in China, many are looking at that country to get a handle on what our future could be like, especially here in New York. What can we learn from the China experience, and what advice do you have for us?
I think it's important to point out that China is just now bringing this under control after about 3 months and after very, very, very severe restrictions. The city that Wuhan, where this originated, is about the size of Los Angeles. That city is still under lockdown. No cars, no taxis, nothing open. I mean, lockdown. And much of the rest of the country, including here in Beijing, faced similar measures here. A lot of those measures remain in effect. So, as people look at this and look at what needs to be done to bring this under control, I encourage them to look at what China did, because what China did is pretty severe by any definition. And it took months for that to happen. And only now are we beginning to see the numbers drop dramatically.
All right. Jonathan Betts, an American journalist working in China, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Some Italians took praying the rosary to new heights. A priest in Rome posted this moving video, a giant rosary made from helium balloons. It was released into the sky as people on the street and standing on their balconies clapped. Here's an interesting tidbit from the priest. Latin for rosary is corona. Here in Brooklyn, American flags were flying as residents of Dyker Heights came out of their homes to wave the stars and stripes and show their patriotism. The neighbors showing you can still practice social distancing while coming together as a community. That is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.